Hi everyone, thanks for joining our webinar. Today we have a new speaker, Asawavi. She is a new developer advocate here at SingleStore and recently joined the company. And we are very excited to host her first webinar with us today. And today's webinar is on a very interesting topic. This is something we have never done before. It's called, as you can see, Elasticsearch versus SingleStore, best for your data needs. And Asawavi is an expert at this topic. So please feel free to address any questions that you have live during the session. So, Asabri, can you please go to the next slide that has the rules?
Yes.
So, like as you can see, that all the rules are there on your screen, and you are currently in a listen only mode, and you can address any questions that you have. You can communicate those with us using the Zoom Q&A button, which is present at the bottom of your console. And we'll be taking any questions from there. If there's any feedback or anything else, any topic ideas that you might have, which you might want to see, you can communicate those to us as well using the Zoom Q&A button. And we will obviously send a email that has that has all the resources that are relevant to this webinar after the webinar. So if you want to sit back and relax, even though we highly encourage that you try along during this webinar and keep this webinar hands on, because this is how you make the best use of your time. So absolutely, I'll keep an eye out on the chat button, and I will send you all the resources if you want to have it, you don't want to watch it passively. And just an FYI, Asawavi can talk about this more. We actually are offering $600 worth of free credits, which is actually a lot of credits if you click on the link that I'm going to provide and sign up for a new account and then start with SingleStore. And obviously you can address, we will also have a dedicated Q&A session that will happen towards the end of the webinar, which will last around 10 minutes, Asavri. So you should keep an eye out for any questions that you might want to address around that time. So yeah, I think that's from my end. And for my introduction, I'm Yukthi, as you all, as a lot of you might know. I'm Yukthi, and one of my main jobs here at SingleStore is running webinars and bringing all these ideas to life and presenting them to you. And we have amazing speakers like Asawavi from the product team that keep on, bringing amazing ideas to everyone. So if there's any questions, feedback that you have, you can always DM me on LinkedIn, or you can always message Asawavi as well. We'd love to hear your ideas on future topics. So yeah, our DMs are always open. Asawavi, please take it away. And thanks everyone for joining.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Yukthi. So I'll start from the first slide of my presentation itself. So hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are joining in. My name is Asawavi and I am a developer advocate here at SingleStore. I have been with SingleStore for a very little while now. And one thing that I want to say about SingleStore with around very little experience but very efficient experience is it is an amazing product. I have tried so many things with SingleStore at this point that I cannot think of any other database at this point of time. So you should try it too. And as a part of the webinar, this is what we are going to talk today is we're going to do a comparative study of Elasticsearch versus SingleStore, and we would understand where Elastic excels and where does it fail. And that's the point where SingleStore comes in and helps you to scale better and work with your complex workloads. So let's get into the presentation part. This is what we have already discussed. And again, the chatbots is always open to your questions, to your suggestions, to your feedbacks that you have for the webinars and for the future webinars as well. These are some of the links that I would like Yukthi to send it on the chat as well. But you can follow us on X, LinkedIn, or Instagram, and follow us along to our journey on making the SingleStore community that we are trying to develop, that we are trying to build with the people to use the product and give us feedback for the product enhancement as well. So getting into the entire main agenda of this entire webinar is this is very briefly that we are going to talk about is this entire webinar is going to be divided into two parts that you can see. In the first part, we would understand about what exactly SingleStore is, how was SingleStore built, and go through very little technical details on how it excels and how does it make your life better, basically. And in the second part of the presentation is where we are going to cover what are the elastic strengths and where does it struggle, and that is the point where SingleStore powers back. I'm going to do a very small demo, which just has full text search, vector search and hybrid search, and I'm going to give you some excellent execution times that we have seen with SingleStore on performing each of these operations. So we'll go through that demo at the very end of the presentation, but to begin with, let's begin with what is SingleStore and learn about what exactly SingleStore is. So if you already know about the product, let us know in the chat. How has your experience been? Are you facing any issues? Is there anything that we could help you to make your life better? But if you have not used SingleStore, then the one line definition of SingleStore is it is a data platform that is built for modern applications to perform the in-app analytics inside these applications. And with the trending AI technologies that are moving around, it helps you build those creative AI applications with ease. If you want to learn about all of these and create those Gen AI applications, I would recommend you to go to SingleStore's YouTube channel, and we have done some amazing agentic AI applications and Gen AI applications that we have built with SingleStore. Highly recommended. Please go and watch those. Now, when I say modern applications, these modern applications are nothing but what you use in your day-to-day life. These applications look very, very simple from a user's perspective. So now if you are using an app called Uber, which is basically you use it for booking your cabs, it looks very simple from your perspective. But at the end and on the back end, there goes a lot of analytics, a lot of data ingestion is going on, a constant reading, writing, operating, querying on those data, and huge data set is being performed. So that is what is happening in the background. So this is how SingleStore helps you to build, and this is where SingleStore helps you to build all of this all together. So in short, we can say that SingleStore is the fastest platform that helps you build applications and also perform those analytics while you are scaling your application or while your workload is getting scaled. So it helps you power your scaled application or applications that require more nodes to be added, more scaling to be done. And it is not just related to analytics, you can also perform search operations inside it. It helps you build those analytics with high ingestion of data. This real-time ingestion and huge ingestion of data also allows you to perform concurrent queries and on different type of data types. It is not just restricted to one, but also on different type of data types. And finally, it lets you build those AI applications with ease using Python notebooks that is again integrated with your SingleStore platform, and this is all provided with ease. Now, if you have heard about SingleStore today, then it was not developed yesterday or it was not developed 2 years back. It has been a journey, and SingleStore has been was on a journey for many years into this tech industry. Initially founded as MemSQL back in 2011 till today's date, where it is known as SingleStore, and we have Helios platform. We provide those universal storage and all of those structure altogether. That is how SingleStore has developed over the years. It had features where when even these technologies were not even trending. For example, as far as I know, the vector search capability that we talk about today of all of these databases have been trending in very recent times. But SingleStore was there even before this became a trend. So you know how SingleStore has progressed over the years. So now it supports multi-model, JSON analytics, and that is what has led to build an entire ecosystem of $100 million company, and with around 350 customers that we have around the globe. This was all, again, very, very salesy part that we have discussed. But what happens in the technicalities of SingleStore is what we are going to understand into this slide. So this slide is what shows you how data ingestion happens, how the queries are being performed, and what happens, how the users are able to see the responses to the queries being asked. So this is the entire underhood structure of what SingleStore looks like. So you ingest the data, or you input the data through a data pipeline into this entire three-tier architecture, where you have data being stored as a row or being stored in a column store structure for faster queries to be performed. And along with this, it gives you an unlimited storage on the cloud. Now this entire three-tier architecture that you see is completely called as the universal storage. Now, this is how the storage has happened. Now, what about the query aggregation? What happens when you aggregate, or what happens when you query on those data? So we'll talk about this detail into the next slide, but just to give you a picture of it, on the top, the nodes that you are seeing is nothing but an aggregator, which performs all of those operations and fetches the data from the leaf node. So leaf node is where all your data is being resided and all your data is being stored. The aggregator performs those operations, fetches the data from those leaf nodes, and then performs all of the queries and aggregation and gives the results to the users. So this is a very brief overview of the underlying architecture of how SingleStore looks like. Now, we have talked about the three-tier architecture, and we talked about the universal storage. So on the left that you see the universal storage, we are talking two very, very important concepts that we have in SingleStore, which is called as a in-memory row store or memory and disk column store. Now, in-memory row store, it is best for your transactional operations. So all the operations that require transactions, best way to store the data is through rowstore. Now, when it stores the data in a row structure format, it allows you to perform those concurrent updates in a more efficient way. The other part of it, where you store the data in the form of a column structure or in a column store, it is best for your analytics need. Now, this lets you store huge amount of data, and I'm not talking about just 10K, 50K, or 100K of data, but I'm talking about petabytes and zettabytes of data that are being stored into these clusters. So this is where, and the queries are being performed on this huge data set, and this is where your analytics is being improved. Your analytics get better when the data is being stored in a column store structure. Now, in the previous slide, we very briefly saw about the query aggregator part, and this is where I'm going to give you a more detailed description of what that was, the query aggregator part. So once the query is hit on the platform, it goes to the load balancer, which decides on the aggregator, which aggregator would be picking up the query. Now, the aggregator is the one which performs all of those operations, right? Now, if you see the arrows that are going down through the aggregator, it is going down through all the leaf nodes. Leaf node is where your data is being resided. Now, on each of this leaf node that you are seeing, there is a column subsegment. Now, each of this column subsegment allows you to store about a millions of records per segment, and this is all stored in a sorted way. So it allows SingleStore to scale linearly without having to worry about speed and efficiency and consistency of the data. So then the leaf node is from where your data is being fetched, returns back to the aggregator, and the aggregator is the one which performs all of those operations and return the results to the user. So this is how your entire storage and entire your query processing is being happening inside your SingleStore architecture. Now, when we talk about databases in general, we have always seen that there are two worlds to these databases. Now, in a world where single store was not existing, we used two different databases to perform transactions and to perform analytics. Now, we used databases like MySQL, Postgres, and then did the ETL operations to perform to get the results. And then we had another system where we use Snowflake, Redshift to do the analytics part. And then all of them combined together into one single structure is what made your entire deployment. But in a world where single store exists, it allows you to store all of those data into one single platform. So you don't have to worry about moving the data from one system to another, the latency, the lag that happens. You don't have to worry about all of those things. So, in short, this single store is basically one store which helps you perform the transactions and also the analytics of the operations. So all of them all in one store called the single store. Now, this is what led single store to become the future of databases. Now, with single store, we had the capability, and single store had the capability to provide simplicity, speed, and the scalability features as well. It made your life simpler. With the data being stored into those smaller sections, it allowed single store to scale the applications without having to worry about the speed and the efficiency and the consistency of the data. So this is where it single store became the future of the databases. Now, when we talk about modern applications again, uh, we are very much driven to the fact that modern application solves modern problem, and it is true, but it brings along a lot of challenges in between. The challenges like huge ingestion of data, large amount of data is being ingested into the system per second or per milliseconds of time. So the speed of the data, speed on how the data is being ingested to the amount of data that is being ingested becomes a challenge for building these applications. Now, with growing data sizes, the architecture, the entire schema of storing this data also becomes very, very complex. You need to use a lot of joins, you need to use rich data types, perform some more complicated queries, and eventually your entire workload becomes very, very complex. With the complex workload, this sometimes leads to query latency, where data is supposed to be fetched from hundreds of joins that are being happening in the background, and latency is one such problem that single store solves. And then again, the concurrency of, because millions of users are accessing those applications, it has become the need of the modern generation. These modern applications drive this entire workload that we have today, and this leads to thousands of users accessing the app simultaneously. So all of this together becomes are the challenges which are being faced by the modern applications. And this is not just it, there are more to it. There are more such complications that happen while building these applications, but these are very, very primary reasons of building challenges that come along while building modern applications. Now, at this point, if you have a question of why should we choose single store, I want to give you a very good diagram that represents that single store allows you to perform semantic search, full text search, and now hybrid search as well, with more speed, with more efficiency. It allows you to perform those transactions and analytics with petabytes and zettabytes of data being of enterprise data that is being stored, and it allows the application to scale at a level where it was required. And finally, as I said, simplicity with the modern applications brings along the problem of having different type of data together, but single store allows you to ingest any kind of data and perform those operations on those type of data, and that is what makes it very, very simple. So this is why basically you should be using single store. So I would like Yukthi at this point to send the link for the Helios platform as well. So Helios is our our cloud managed platform where you can create your own single stores cluster, load your data, load the sample data, perform some queries on your own, and the link that Yukthi would be sharing would give you $600 of credit. And this credit is enough to build an entire application, a basic application for an instance, and load the data and perform some of the operations altogether. So we'll go through the platform very briefly while we are doing the demo. But at this point, I would just want you to open the link that Yukti is sharing and just go through the platform on how it looks like and what you feel about it. And now we have reached to the second part of the presentation where we are going to do the comparative study of Elasticsearch, where it strengthens and where are those and how are those challenges coming along while building these modern applications. Now, Elastic has been loved by developers for a very, very long time because of its ability to quickly ingest the data, search, perform the analytics. So, and it all happens so that the developer can only focus on the application layer. The the structure that it provides is schema-less. It gives you the capability to perform observability, gives you the cloud platform, allows you to do vector search, hybrid search, full text search, and everything all together. And plus, it is an open source platform. But there are a few challenges that Elasticsearch has faced over the years. And these challenges occur while building these modern applications because modern applications are complex, one, and modern applications scale as it grows, as the number of users grow, as the size of the data grows. And this is where Elastic started to face problems. Now, if you look at the left side of the slide that you're seeing on the screen, is it shows you why and how Elastic was lagging behind when the structure became very, very complex. So it started using buggy feature called lookup runtimes, where the fields were in index, the execution time or the query was not performing correct, or even at times with the complex architectures and complex systems, it gave some random results on the matching fields, and that is what that is what you do not need for your modern applications. This was all the complexity story that we have talked about. The problem also happened when we wanted the modern application to scale. Now, while adding nodes or adding more nodes to the cluster, Elastic showed some performance issues. Now, with this performance issues, it led to the loss of data integrity. It led to the loss of, or there were no ACID compliances followed at one point of time. And there was a point of time where it was fetching the data that was stale, or maybe it was not even existent. So consistency was basically not followed. Your integrity was not being followed. And that is where all the problem began. And that is how, and that is where SingleStore has powered back over the years to make your life better in different ways. So the first thing that SingleStore provides is you don't have to worry about too many systems or too many architectures all at the same time because you have just one system. You just have to worry about where your data is being stored and how are you performing those operations. So the complexity of having different stacks that Elastic has was not there in SingleStore anymore. And of course, we have talked about analytics and transactions and hybrid workloads and all of those with different kinds of data being performed. So all of those was also handled very, very smoothly and efficiently with SingleStore. With the functionality of Lucene, SingleStore also helped while avoiding the high indexing cost that Elastic charges and gives you the better performance while performing full text search, vector search, or even hybrid search at this point. So this is where SingleStore has excelled over the years that we have seen. And this is not just what I am saying from my perspective, or this is not just what has been there, or this is not just to make you buy SingleStore, but this is what our customers have also said about SingleStore. Adobe, while it was using Elasticsearch, they felt the data flattening became too complex for them, and SingleStore solved that problem and they could do simpler analytics and analytics at a better pace. Armis, for an example, they didn't even know that they would require what would be required to maintain that entire elastic structure, those entire verticals that Elastic has to maintain an entire workload. And then SingleStore solved all of those problems because everything was in one place and everything was all tied together. So they switched from Elasticsearch to Armis and Armis switched from Elasticsearch to SingleStore with their workloads. Now, we have given a very, very theoretical reasoning of how SingleStore powers back, but these are the numbers that we have seen over the years, and these are not just random numbers. We have seen it from our customers. We have seen it while running through benchmarking, while running through several other examples of data on how the performance has excelled. So we have seen SingleStore uh, giving us 200 times better performance than Elastic. There was a time when it was more faster, it was 2x time faster, where it was 3x time faster, or it was 20x time faster. So overall it gave you a better performance. The analytics performed better. Good aggregation queries performed much better than how it was being performed on the Elasticsearch. So these are the various numbers that we have seen through various use cases that we have run with Elasticsearch and with SingleStore, and we have seen that difference. Now we'll get into the demo part of this. So before we go to the demo part, I would want everybody to go through the Helios platform and see how it looks like and how it is there. So this is how your entire workspace, or when you create your cluster, your entire workspace is going to look like. The first step is you create your workspace, create your cluster, create your database, and the next step is where you are going to load the data. Now for this demo part specifically, I have used a very simple data set from Kaggle that is available online. You can use that same data set, and it has around 20K to 200K of data, which has Amazon reviews, and I'm using the same data set to perform all of my operations here. So you can just go to create new and load data into your structure, now into your entire database that you have created. Now there are different ways again to load your data. I have used a very simple way to load my CSV file from here, but if you want to have a different way of loading your data, all of these methods on how to load your data is also available in our SingleStore documentations. So you can follow those documentations and follow along those steps that are given to load your data into the system. Now, for me, the data is already loaded into my system. So let me just go through it quickly and I'll show you how. So if you go, so this is what my database is, and this is what my workspace is. If I go to an SQL editor, this is, and I will select my database. I'll show you how my data looks like. Okay, sorry. This was the name of database. So this is the name of my table. So let me do the query again. Now you see all of my data with product ID, user ID, and what are the reviews that they have given. All of that is given in the form of a long text. And this is where we would be performing full text operation, vector search operation, and also hybrid search operation. Now for performing the vector search and the hybrid search, we have used OpenAI to create those embeddings. I'll show you the notebook as well on how I have done the embedding and how I have created this entire database, updated this entire table basically. So now when the data is all loaded, when the data is all there in the system, you can perform all of the queries, all of the SQL queries onto this platform and see how it is working. Now, I already have my notebook ready. You can create your notebook directly from the Helios platform by clicking on create new, go to notebook, and a notebook would be created for you. You can create an empty one or you can load of your own as well. So let's install a few things. And once it is all set, I will make the connection as well. So now at this point, my connection is made and you can see I'm connected to SingleStore platform as well. Now, the first step is where I am creating those embeddings for all the data that I have inside my system. To do that, I'm using OpenAI's keys and used just simple embedding method that I have called, and I would just generate some random embeddings. So now at this point, since the embedding was already there, it said that the embedding exists. Otherwise, it would have taken some amount of time to load, to create those embeddings for each of the individual texts. Now, if I am going to perform some full text operation on this, and are you looking at the speed of the execution that is being performed? It is 0.0038 seconds. So this is how fast the queries have performed with the full text search. Now I know you would say this is a full text. Let's see how vector search is performing. So let's do a vector search test as well. And for vector search, we have seen a little bit of more latency into it because it calls an OpenAI to do the embeddings of the query that we are sending and then it performs the operation. So that is why the latency has happened. And finally, we'll do the hybrid search of this as well. And if you see the hybrid search results, it is again amazing, which is 0.06 and 0.07 seconds that we have seen. We have run it also through Elastic, and we have seen a slower response in those cases as well. So Elastic has given a little bit of lower performance, or in major cases, especially with hybrid search, it has given much lower performance when it was compared with SingleStore. And finally, if I want to give you a comparative study or an entire table of how all of these execution times look like. So I've run a couple of times before this webinar, so that's why you see different ones. But this is for all of the executions that we have done right now. And this is how your time and execution and the scores for it look like at this point. So this is what my demo was, and this is what my entire presentation was. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask in the chat.
All right, Asawavi, thank you so much. That was such an informative session. And I really think that it was one of the best webinars that we have actually done in a very long time. So, folks, if you have any questions, now is the time to ask away because we are doing a Zoom Q&A session. And we actually have some time now. So, yeah, Sabri actually finished a bit early. So, we have more time for any live questions that anyone might have. So, yeah, please, you can utilize Asabri. We can wait for some seconds. If no one asks, we can end the session early.
Yeah, sure.
We have a question. So we have a question from Jing Zheng. They are saying if we have, I know I butchered that. I'm sorry for the mispronunciation. So they say that if we have both OLAP and OLTP usage for the same data set, what's the suggested design?
Uh, Let me know if I'm understanding your question correctly. Is you have a workload which requires to do analytics and transactions for the same data set, right? What do you mean by design suggestion? Are you looking for schema suggestion uh, or something else? Can you specify a little more, please?
So Asabri, can you take a look at the Q&A?
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Okay.
Okay, you want a schema suggestion. Now, for schema suggestion, I'll have to look at your entire workload, to be honest, and to understand what your entire use case has been. So it would be good if you could give a very detailed description of this one, on what do you want from your application. Basically, what kind of transactions and what kind of analytics are you going to perform? Because schema is again very, very subjective. uh, it is a very huge topic, schema suggestions on schema design. So based on what your use case has been, we would be able to suggest something with that. uh, I don't see any links for the URLs. I will send it, or I'll ask Yukthi because she
But
has the link
I can
for.
reset that. Don't worry. Might be
Yeah.
because
Okay.
sometimes when you join a bit later, you are not able to see any links or anything like prior chat. So one more thing, guys, we don't take any questions if you raise your hand. So that's the only form of communication is the Zoom Q&A button. So please feel free to use that. Asavri, there's a bunch of more questions. Please take care of them.
Yeah. Okay. Uh, I see. I can send. Yes, please. I would like it would be highly recommended if you could send it through us on the email, and then we could take a look. We could have some experts on them as well, and then they could help you build those entire things. Okay. Are there additional performance improvements for creating denormalized dataset still within SingleStore for hybrid query versus based normalized OLTP dataset? Yes, Rajiv, you can ask more questions later. Please feel free to use, since this video will be available, this webinar will be available on the YouTube of SingleStore. Please feel free to drop in your question on the comments and then we would be there to address it. Are there additional performance improvements from creating denormalized datasets? Still within SingleStore for hybrid query versus for better performance improvements, again, I would like recommend you to give us more details on the questions that you are asking, and then I could come back and follow up on the question that you have asked him. This is a very little information to give you this entire. So the short answer to this is yes, there are more performance improvements, but I would need more information from you to address this question. Uh, can share how single store working in RAG pipeline. What do you mean by a RAG pipeline? Are you trying to build a RAG application? Because again, I would recommend you to go through our blogs and the YouTube videos and see if that answers your question, and then please reach out to us if that doesn't.
Yeah.
Tim, I'll pick up your question, and I'll take a note of that question as well, and I'll send the response to your question over the email if that sounds good, because I need to consult the team. I need to ask and give you a better response rather than just a response at this point. Does that sound good? I'll take a note of your question, Tim. Yukthi, can you send like one email where they could send in more questions that they have, and then we could address those questions? Or what is the best way to have and answer all of those
But
questions?
I can send. We always have like our team at singlestore.com that's very active. We can talk over there, and you can always reach out to us at our personal email as well. Like when you will get a follow-up email, it will have my email towards the end, and you can always reach out. Or Asawari, if you're comfortable, I can share your email as well. Whatever's like, whatever's okay. Rajiv, you feel free to reply to the follow-up email you'll get, and then we'll redirect like as per your convenience.
Okay. Yeah. For the questions that you're asking, most of these questions sounds very use case specific, and I cannot answer uh, with just the questions that you have asked. Maybe my knowledge is not full enough at this point to give you an answer. However, I would highly recommend you to send up the follow-up email on the question on the to whatever questions that you have. So send up your questions, and then I'll make sure I'll take a look and give you the response as soon as I can.
Folks, everyone, the link to like that were being requested again and again, they are in the chat for everyone to look around again, because sometimes it glitches, or if you join a bit late and I sent it before, you cannot see it. So that's there for you all to utilize. Sabri, there's one more question from David Rivera.
Uh, okay, I have an answer to this question. Is we are working on something, and there is one feature which is coming up where you can generate and you can call those AI models directly to generate those embeddings directly from SingleStore instead of calling the third party. Now that feature is going to be available very, very soon. So just stay tuned, look out on the Helios platform, and as soon as you see it there, you would be able to create those and generate those embeddings directly on SingleStore. Great. I think all the links have been shared on the chat. But if you feel you need more information, or if you feel you need more documentation or resources to this one, we will send you on the follow-up email. Also, please look out for the blog that would also be coming as a part of this webinar. So there's a written article as well, which is coming in, which has the details of, and it is in more detail to what we have already talked about. So that gives you a more perspective and more use case specific examples on where SingleStore powers more, in where the Elastic has shown gaps. So stay tuned for those blog posts also coming in.
I think we don't have any more questions. Folks, like last round of Q&A, if there's any other questions, now is the time to drop them. And like for everyone's reference, as Asawavi also mentioned, I have dropped in the resources again. And we are currently preparing the emails with all the resources. So everything will be in your inbox right after the session. If you missed any part, stay tuned for the email and keep an eye out. So yeah, and you can always email us at any any of our email addresses. Everything's like, and obviously you can reach out to me on LinkedIn or to Asawavi. She's like the better point of contact. So yeah, like I think if you don't have any other questions, Asawavi, I think we can end the session if you don't have anything else to cover.
Yeah, I'm good. I've also shared my LinkedIn for
Oh yeah.
people who have questions and they want answers right away. Please share your LinkedIn, and then I mean, you can send me a message on LinkedIn and then I can follow up with your questions.
All right, sounds good. Asabi, I pasted your message again. You actually accidentally sent it to hosts and panelists. So, yeah, I've
Okay.
sent it to everyone, and stay tuned for the follow-up email. Sabri, thanks for doing this amazing webinar with us. It was really fun. And yeah, I hope that everyone enjoyed it. And we have amazing sessions that are going to come up. So go to our events section and you will see webinars listed there as a landing page. Check that out and register yourself, and I hope to see you all there. If this you enjoyed this one, I'm sure you will enjoy the future sessions as well. So, right, Asabri, I think you don't have anything else to cover.
No, I'm good.
All right, then I think we can conclude the session. Thanks everyone for joining. Have a great rest of the day and have a great rest of the night, depending on where you are. All right,
Thank you
thank
so much.
you. Bye bye.